right, thank you very much. Like Chris said, my name's John Paul. I'm from AAA. I've been at AAA for 35 somewhat years now. So I started with the AAA when we were headquartered in Rockland, Mass, and now I was going to say now I work in the Providence, Rhode Island office up until March 13th, where now I work in my basement most of the time. So so my commute went from originally 7 miles each way to 47 miles each way to about 26 steps. So so that's actually been pretty good. I'm not sure my wife and I are loving all this togetherness. We live in a very small house, so but we're trying to do the best we can. The subject for today is all about ride hailing. Ride hailing, similar to behind me, you can see an old checker cab. You don't see a lot of checker cabs around anymore. I think the last checker cab in New York disappeared about 10 years ago. Now they've become collector items. But now more people are taking advantage of Uber and Lyft than conventional cabs. And one of the things that's always worth talking about is, as we age, our driving skills don't get any better. And there may be a time that you might even want to think about giving up driving, and Uber or Lyft could be a decent alternative. Sometimes if you think about the cost that's involved with keeping your car on the road, maintaining it, getting it inspected, insuring it, all those kind of things, and you look at all of those costs together, and in Massachusetts, this year, because I turned 65, I will get an insurance discount. As you get older, the insurance discount goes away. So your insurance actually starts to go up after a while, because the insurance companies go, well, at 65, you're a safe driver. At 70, you're a little, maybe not quite as safe. At 75, a little less safe. So if you're able to still drive at 85, you might think that your insurance costs are similar to what a teenager is, because the costs do go up. So sometimes if you plan your day correctly and you didn't have a car, Uber and Lyft can be a good alternative to that. So it can give you some extra ways to look at both being able to go out and do what you need to do, and do it as economically as possible. I have a little presentation to show, and hopefully I'll figure out how to do that the way I'm supposed to. One of my coworkers actually created it. She's much smarter than me. But I want to go over some of it. I'll kind of click through it, talk through most of it, and at the end, if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them the best we can. So if I do this, hopefully you see, does everybody see need a ride?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so ride sharing apps are picking up. Yeah, I actually was in a cab, a conventional cab, about a year ago, and I asked the cab driver how that's affecting his business, how this Uber and Lyft is affecting his business, and he said it's killing him, because it's a different way to get people around. So is it easy to use Uber and Lyft? It is pretty easy, actually. So it's easier than using my computer, I think. So how does ride hailing work? Well, you do need to set up an account. You do need a smartphone. So you do, if you have a flip phone, it's not going to work. You do need a smartphone, so you do need an Android or an Apple style phone, but you do need to set up an account. The phone itself will tell the driver where you are, So you don't have to worry about that. You'll receive information about who's coming to pick you up. So if say you want to go to the supermarket and you decide today's not the day you want to drive, you put in the information to go to Market Basket, and you'll get a message back that says a Toyota Highlander is going to come to pick you up, and the driver's name is Bob Brooks. And when they show up, two things are going to happen. They're going to ask you who you are, and you're going to check to make sure they're who they are. So there's some security in there as well. There has been some stories about people getting in the wrong Uber and Lyft vehicles. It shouldn't ever happen, but it can from time to time. I was in New York last year, and every Uber seemed to be a black SUV. So it was pretty easy to kind of get in the wrong one. So you had to be a little bit careful. So no cash is exchanged. This is the safest. For whoever thought up Uber and Lyft, you know, anybody who's old enough to remember has always heard about cab drivers getting robbed and assaulted and all kinds of things. There's no reason that that's going to happen to an Uber or Lyft driver, because there's no cash that's exchanged. It's all your credit or debit card from your phone to their account, and that's how they get paid. So that's good. You can tip your driver if you want to. Sometimes you can tip them on the app. Other times people prefer to tip in cash. Either way. The trips are all one way. So when you get to your destination, when it's time to come back, you would request another ride. So like I said, you need a smartphone of some sort, an iPhone, a Google phone, something like that. That's what you need. A credit, debit card, or prepaid card. Some of the ride-sharing apps do have prepaid cards. So you can get a Lyft card or an Uber card. The problem is you have to pay for it with a credit card. So if you're concerned about security with your credit card, you're kind of giving out your credit card information anyway. So at work, I will say we prefer Lyft over Uber. When we kind of did our research, we felt that they were a little bit more secure than Uber was, but that's just some research that we did. So we, for instance, if you called for road service right now because your car broke down and you were out on the road, because of social distancing and health concerns and all of that sort of thing, you would have to find a ride home. And because we can't get 6 feet away inside a tow truck, so we can't put up a glass panel between the passenger side and the driver's side. So what we'll do is we'll actually call Lyft, and we'll arrange a Lyft drive if we have to. So we use Lyft more than Uber, but they both work essentially the same. So here's a little video that my coworker Diana put together.
Has completely transformed the way we think about transportation in our country. And it's exciting to know that riders of all ages are utilizing companies like Uber and Lyft to get around conveniently and in a really cost-effective manner. And today we are going to show you how to install Lyft and Uber into a smartphone so you can take advantage of this really convenient service. It's interesting to note that a lot of senior citizens, when they consider retiring from driving, are using ride sharing as a really convenient option. So it should be easy, it should be quick, and we're going to walk you through all those steps to plan for transportation and even possibly retirement from driving.
The first thing that you'll need to start ride hailing is a smartphone. A smartphone is enabled by and can download apps. If you have an iPhone, the Uber or Lyft app can be downloaded from the App Store. The icon on your phone looks like this. If you have an Android phone, you will download from Google Play, and that icon looks like this. First, we will click on that icon to open the virtual stores and download the apps. Uber's app icon looks like this, and here's the Lyft's icon. You can search the stores for apps by name. Both are free.
One thing I want to point out, though, is that when you're installing the app, be careful because there's two different Uber apps and there's two different Lyft apps. One is if you want to become a driver, and one is if you want to be a passenger. So make sure you do the right one. Unless you want to become a driver for Uber or Lyft, then use that one. But for the most part, just use the one that just says Uber or Lyft, not Uber driver or a Lyft driver.
To download to your phone. Once the apps are installed on your phone, you will see the icons on your screen. Just touch them to open the app. I will walk you through the setup for the Lyft app first. Once you open the app, a screen will open to create an account. Enter your basic information. Then you can add a payment method. This is where you can choose a credit or debit card, which would automatically be charged for your rides. There is no option for cash exchange in ride sharing. This is a feature of both safety and convenience. Drivers don't have cash in the vehicle, and riders don't need to worry about having a certain amount of cash for the ride. A great feature about Lyft is that you can load a prepaid card as your form of payment. For example, you could purchase a card at a store and enter that card number into the app, or friends and family could even gift you rides by purchasing a prepaid card. Uber does not accept prepaid cards. When the day comes that you would like to hail a ride, a map will appear on your screen when you click on the app and open it. You will have the ability to view the locations of drivers in the area. The app will ask for the address that you would like to travel to. But start here. Remember that a smartphone is enabled with GPS, so the app is using this feature to communicate your location to the driver. If you don't want to be picked up from where you are.
On the little map, it showed all those little cars moving around. Those are actually Lyft drivers waiting for rides. So they're waiting for people to say, hey, I need to go somewhere. So sometimes you can look around and you'll say, oh, there's 3 or 4 ready within a couple of minutes. So we'll move on a little bit.
Currently, you can edit your location or provide more details about your location. Otherwise, just confirm your location on the start line of the pickup information. You can also touch the screen and move the pin around to change your location. Just be careful not to do this unintentionally. Confirm your pickup address and then enter your drop-off address where you'd like to go. In the event that you don't have the physical address of where you'd like to go, the app can also search for addresses by name if you're going to a public place like a business, a restaurant, or a doctor's office. The app will tell you how much the ride will cost in advance, and you'll see 2 options. One for Lyft, which is usually a 4-passenger car, or Lyft XL, which typically seats 6. This is an option if you're traveling with a larger group and you need an SUV. You will see that requesting a Lyft XL is more expensive, so don't order that if you don't need it. Some cities offer Lyft Lux, Lyft Black, or Lyft Black XL, which are luxury vehicles. These are only available in select cities here in Rhode Island, so I won't get into those options in the interest of time. Just click on the option you would like, and the rate will be quoted. That's how you order your ride. An approximate time of arrival will be available, as well as key information that you must pay close attention to. The make, model, and color of the vehicle and the driver's name, as well as the vehicle's license plate number, will appear. You can see updates about the location of your driver as well. I warn you that most pickups come fairly quickly, so try to be ready in advance of ordering your ride. Remember, it's your job to identify the vehicle and match it to the description you received on your phone by matching the license plate and the vehicle description. Now let's look at the Uber app. Downloading Uber is the same as Lyft, but you will need to enter your credit or debit card as payment. Remember that it doesn't accept prepaid cards. When it's time to hail a ride, open the app, then enter the address of where you would like to go. You have the choice of allowing your phone to default to your current location as your pickup location, or enter a new address. You can also save addresses that you may travel to frequently for convenience. By clicking on the icon of the car in the clock in the lower right corner of the screen, you can schedule a ride in the future by scrolling to the date and time when you'd like to be picked up, then click on Set Time. This is helpful if you want to plan in advance. You can also rate your experience through the app. Just keep in mind that if you have the habit of rating drivers poorly, future drivers may choose not to pick you up. They operate as independent contractors. They have the right to refuse riders they consider to be problematic because they don't want to have a low rating with the company. The pro here is they will always go out of their way to be polite and courteous to you. For safety, a consideration may be to take a snapshot with your phone of the driver's information, like the driver's name, the description of the vehicle, and the license plate number, and send it by text message to a loved one so they know where you're going and who you're with. I can show you how to do that later. Remember, it's your job to identify the vehicle and match it to the description you received on your phone by matching the license plate and vehicle description. Once the vehicle pulls up, ask the driver their name and confirm the location that you'll be traveling to. Also, keep in mind that you'll need to order a ride to get back home. You can't plan a two-way trip. Only one-way trips can be planned in advance through the app, so you'll need to repeat the process. I hope this was helpful.
Okay, so just for clarification, that was Diana's mother in the video too. So, you know, the same. They mentioned Rhode Island, where some things were available, and some, you know, the Uber XL, Uber Black XL. Those are just bigger, fancier vehicles. Taking a snapshot of your phone, where you take sort of a screenshot of your phone. If you're very nervous or you have a very nervous family, it's okay to, you know, that's something you might want to do. And then, like, I have an iPhone, and on my phone's a little bit older, so you press the power button and the little home button, and it actually takes a picture of whatever's on the screen, and it saves it as a picture. And then you could send that, you could text that picture to someone and say, hey, this is the person who's coming to pick me up. You know, if you're somebody who thinks you need to do that, to me it seems a bit over the top. But again, it all begins with the app, and you want to make sure that you're, you know, installing the right app. So you want to make sure you're Lyft and Uber, whichever one you want to use, or both. Some people tell me Uber is a little cheaper than Lyft. It kind of depends on the time of day and where you're going. Some of the destination information, like it said, if you're not exactly sure where you're going and you're going to go to a medical center and you don't know where it is, but you know your doctor's name, put in your doctor's name and it may find it automatically for you. So it actually works really well because it works in conjunction with some of the best mapping systems. So it works pretty well. So, but you do need to go to either, if you have an Apple phone, you need to go to the Apple App Store. Google phone, you need to go to the Google Store, the Play Store, or whatever they're calling it. And with those applications, you're going to need to have some sort of there's a password to download things. So if you haven't been on the App Store in a long time, and it's going to say, oh, you need to log into your account, unless you know what your account is, you're not going to be able to log into it. So you may have to do a little setup there if it's been a while. But it all begins with the app, and that's where you need to go. So, and again, pretty simple. You need to put in your name and phone number and email, and a credit or debit card. Some people use a prepaid debit card, so they'll put a couple $100 on it, and that way they don't worry that they're going to, you know, something bad could happen. You can get branded gift cards. Amazon had them, but like I said, the weird thing is with that, if you're ordering a prepaid card, you're usually paying for it with a credit card, so your credit card information is out there anyway. So in our household, we only have a couple of credit cards. We use one for kind of virtual purchases and one for in-person. So we have one that's tied to our Uber account. Putting in your information, again, you confirm where you want to go, and your phone will know about where you are most of the time. So if you let your phone pick, it says, enter your departure information. Usually your phone knows exactly where you are, so you're fine. Occasionally, if you're in a big city, if you're in, downtown Boston in the middle of the financial district with all the buildings, or if you're in Manhattan, it may have a little bit of trouble finding you, so you might have to put in, say you're in Manhattan and you're living the good life, and you put in you're at the west entrance of the Four Seasons Hotel. So because it may not know exactly where you are because of kind of interference.
John?
Yes.
This is Pat Moore. I just wanted to make sure people know that that's a preference that they have to have on their phone, that you have to have your location services
turned on.
Turned on.
Yep. Yeah. So, and usually when you set your phone up and it downloads it, it's going to say, do you want to allow the app to know your location? I have it set up so only when I'm using the app. So it has yes, no, only when using app. I use only when using app because it tends to be a little bit lighter on the battery use. So that's what I use.
When you did, is that when you downloaded the Uber or the Lyft app, or is that
yes.
just, okay.
Yeah.
That's when it asks.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So does anybody else have access to that GPS information then besides Lyft or Uber?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get the question.
Well, if you're letting your GPS information be known, is that available to, let's say, Apple or any the maker of the Android device or anybody else?
Probably.
Yes. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think every time you turn your phone on, the whole world knows about what you're doing and where you're going. So, probably I wouldn't be surprised. But on the other hand,
It is true. Yes.
with billions of phone users out there, I don't know how they can. I'm sure there's probably something out there that they know, and unless you put your phone inside a lead case, you probably don't have a whole lot of choice. But one of the points that was brought up in the video is that when it says your ride is going to show up in 3 minutes, they really do mean 3 minutes. If you decide, for example, that your phone, all of a sudden you look at your phone and it says your ride's going to be there in 3 minutes, and you decide you needed to go use the bathroom first, and you'll be like, oh, they'll wait for me. They don't usually wait. So be kind of on the lookout for them. They'll only wait for a very limited amount of time, and if you don't show up, you will be charged a no-show fee. So be ready when they tell you they're going to be there. And you do get all the information about who's coming to pick you up and what kind of car they're in, and the picture of who they are. So it is pretty safe. How much will it cost? There'll always be, it will always tell you on the app. And even though it says fair estimate on this slide, it's not an estimate. It's how much it's going to cost. If it says it's going to cost $7.21, it's going to cost $7.20. It's not like a cab where you're stuck in traffic and you're watching the meter go up. The app will adjust the price. Say one day you're going to go to some certain destination and it's going to cost $10. And 3 days later, you're going to go to exactly the same destination, and it might cost $7. Well, it has to do with the amount of traffic on the road, and the app knows that ahead of time. So it could vary the price a little bit one way or the other. It's referred to as surge pricing. When it's really busy, the costs go up a little bit. So, but you'll know that up front. And even if you're not using the app and you have Google Maps on your phone, when you're looking to see how, say you wanted to go from home to a dentist appointment and you weren't sure how to get there and you wanted to use your map, Google Map to get there, some of the options are driving, public transportation, walking, and ride hailing. And in the ride hailing, that will give you an approximate cost of what it would be. But if you're using the app, it will give you an exact cost of what it will be. The time when they're going to arrive, it's pretty accurate. In my experience, it's been pretty accurate. And wait where they kind of tell you to wait. So that's important too. I will tell you a little story. The last time I used Lyft, I was at I dropped a car off at a school, and the teacher said to me, "How are you getting home?" And I said, "Oh, I'll just take a Lyft or Uber home." And he, "Okay, good." Well, my phone is on the Sprint phone network, and the Sprint phone network near the school was awful. So, although my phone had some level of service, it wasn't very good. I ended up having to walk about a half a mile till I got better phone service. So then I could click on the app, and the app worked fine. And at that point, fortunately, my phone knew I was kind of standing next to a telephone pole out in the middle of nowhere, because the driver came, it said the driver will be there in 5 minutes, and 5 minutes later, the driver showed up. And I knew what kind of car he was driving. He was actually driving a Toyota Highlander, and it was blue. So I saw him coming down the road, and I kind of waved, and he pulled right over, and he asked who I was, and I asked who he was, and off we went to my house. And don't be concerned that the driver is, especially on your return trip, don't be concerned that the driver is taking a different way than you would normally go, because sometimes they've never been to your house, and they're only going to go by what the map on their phone tells them to do. And if you've ever used GPS, whether it's on a phone or a regular satellite navigation system, a portable one, or one built into a car, they don't always follow the same directions you do. How many people have ever argued with their GPS? They're like, I don't want to go this way. But that's the way they're going to go. And don't worry, it's not like the old days with cab drivers where they drive around in circles to raise the cost of the fare. It's whatever the fare is going to be, whatever the fare is going to be, and they're going to go the way their phone tells them to go. So don't be concerned that it's not the direction you want to go. So ride-hailing etiquette, the ride begins when the car arrives, not when you get in. So just when the car arrives, don't go, "Hey, wait, I'll be right back." No, you need to be ready. You can sit wherever you want in a ride-hailing car. Most drivers, though, will put the passenger seat all the way forward and even lean the seat back forward, kind of giving you a signal of, "Don't sit in the front seat. I don't want to sit with you." So they want you to sit in the back seat. And when they have the seat all the way forward, it gives you more room anyway. So, but if you do have 3 or more passengers coming, then they're going to have to sit wherever they can. You can rate your driver. Is the car clean? Was the driver polite? Did he have rap music on, too loud? Whatever the case is, you can rate them. But like Diana said in the video, they can rate you too. So if you're demanding, if you're obnoxious, if sometimes some people have not us, but sometimes people that go out at night, and their Uber driver's like, "This passenger's always drunk. I'm not picking up this person anymore." So it will say under the passenger review, the passenger is always intoxicated. So they can rate you just like you can rate them. I'm not chatty, so I get in the car and just let them go where we're going to go. When I get my hair cut, I don't talk to the person cutting my hair. So I'm not chatty that way. Some people are, and some people learn a lot about the people that are driving them. It is their own personal car, so you don't. If you do have a box with you or something with you, don't just throw it in the back seat or put it on top of the trunk until they can get the trunk open. It is their personal car and they care about it. So, and don't request and cancel a ride. You will get a bad reputation for doing that. Yeah, sometimes you have to just because, but I got a bad reputation with Lyft because in the Seaport area of Boston, there were automated self-driving Lyft cars. And I don't know if you'd ever want to get in a car without a driver, and they had a safety driver, but I wanted to get in a car, a Lyft car that drove itself. So I would order a Lyft car, and when I saw it show up and it wasn't the self-driving one, I'd cancel it. I did that a couple times, and I kind of got a bad reputation, so I had to go back and become a customer again to get a better reputation back. So don't just order it and cancel it. That's how you get a hold of me if you need to for whatever reason. And I can be found at jpaul@aaanortheast.com or aaa.com/cardoctor. Let's see, we'll go back to this. What I did when I first downloaded the app was I did a test ride to someplace, the Walmart down the street from my house. Was there any reason I wouldn't drive there? No. But I wanted to see how the app worked. So I downloaded it, and they brought me to the Walmart and walked around for a little while, and they brought me home. And I'm like, that worked pretty easy. And last year, my wife was going to spend about 6 weeks in Florida, and she didn't have a car. So I said, why don't we, and she didn't have a smartphone. This was 2 years ago. And so I said, why don't we get a smartphone? Which was like, I don't want a smartphone. I'm perfectly happy with my old phone. And I said, why don't we get a smartphone? And then why don't we download the app and we'll put a credit card information in there. And if you decide that you want to go somewhere, the supermarket, the beach, whatever the case is, you can do it with Uber and Lyft. And the amount of times you're going to do that versus renting a car for a month, it's going to be cheaper to do that than rent a car. So that's kind of what we did. So you need to you can look at some of the options, because some of the options will, you can look at it and say, this could work for me, and it doesn't. So really it comes down, it's pretty simple. There are some abilities to put in notes, for instance. So in other words, you have a walker, and some of the apps do allow, and I don't remember which one, I think it's Uber, does allow to say, customer needs a little assistance. Now, they're not going to give you a lot of assistance, but sometimes they will, if you're standing out in front of your house with a walker, they're going to help you a little bit, and they're going to maybe put the walker in the trunk of the car for you or something like that. A wheelchair is a little bit different story. Then you need specialized transportation. But the other thing is, I have heard from people who have gone to the supermarket and got an Uber or Lyft coming back, and the driver was kind enough to actually help them bring their groceries in their house. That is not part of their job, though. Their job is to bring you from door to door. That's what they're supposed to do. And again, it is once you use it, it is pretty easy, and it is pretty simple. And although it might sound a little bit pricey, I live about 30 miles from the airport, and it's about a $65 Uber ride from my house to the airport. Sounds kind of expensive, but on the other hand, have you ever parked at the airport lately? It's $35 a night at Logan. So even though it sounds expensive, it's fairly reasonable when you factor it all in. So, and again, the convenience part of it makes it work really well. The checker cab in the background here is a fully restored checker cab that I took a picture of. It's beautiful. The last time I was in a New York cab, it was not beautiful. It was stinky and smelly and dirty. And the last time I was in a Lyft car, it looked like the guy just went to the car wash with it. And I know a couple of people that have, in the last month, signed up to drive for Uber and Lyft. And both applications require fairly new vehicles. And in Massachusetts, they also require a separate vehicle inspection when you do ride hailing. So I think it's called a EPS inspection or something like that. And it is a certain inspection that's just to make sure that your car is in good shape. So even though the company Uber and Lyft require it, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts requires something a little bit different too. So that's pretty much our presentation. Any questions?
Yeah, John, I saw on one of the screens you had you could pay with PayPal.
Right.
Or if there are other options like Amazon Pay and that thing.
I have not seen Amazon Pay, and I haven't. And somebody asked me the other day whether you could use one of the other pay apps. I don't think so. The last time I checked, it was either PayPal and I think PayPal owns a piece of Uber. I think that's one of the reasons. But it was that credit debit card, prepaid debit card, something like that. You can, like I said, I believe both of them, I think Lyft just came out with a prepaid Lyft card now. The other one that I will admit I don't fully understand is GoGo Grandparent. Now, GoGo Grandparent is where you don't want to have the app and you call them and they arrange to have a Lyft come out for you, but they also use your credit card to do it. So a friend of mine was flying home a couple of months ago, and but his plane was delayed, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and he was going to have somebody come and pick him up, and when he found out his plane was delayed, he just said, "Never mind, I'll figure it out." And I said, "How'd you get home?" And he said, "Oh, I used Uber." And I said, "How'd you do that?" And he said, "I don't know. I just pushed Google and told Google to find me Uber." And what it did is he found GoGo Grandparent, where somebody actually answered the phone and said, "Hi, I'm at the airport. Can you get an Uber to me?" And they took down his credit card information, and sure enough, it was an Uber showed up. So GoGo Grandparent's kind of a where you don't want to use an app, but you want to call someone. That can work as an option. That can work as an option too. But I find the app works pretty seamlessly, and makes it pretty easy. I worry way more about putting my credit card information in some of the other accounts than I do about Lyft. I've heard people have told me stories, but then again, last time a couple of years ago, I paid a parking ticket online through the municipality, and about a week and a half later, apparently I bought 2 big screen TVs at a Walmart, which I didn't, by the way. And I called the credit card company and said, "Hey, look, I didn't do this," and they said, "Okay," and it all worked out, and it wasn't like my identity got stolen or anything. It was just somebody used my credit card fraudulently, and the credit card company sent me a new card. So, but I have not thought a minute about that. I've installed I installed the app and have my credit card on the app. What you can also do, with Lyft, you can also install the app now and put the credit card in later. So if you said, "Hey, I want to just have it all set up, and when I go to use it, the day I go to use it, I'll put my credit card information on." You can do that if you want. Then if you're nervous, you can delete it afterwards. Keep in mind they already have it, but And chances are, the way the world is today, everybody knows everything about you anyway, including where, what credit card you use. But you do need a credit card, and you do need a smartphone. And other than that, that's about it. You'll find it, in most cases, it works really, really well. A friend of mine was in Boston on July 5th, and he said for the life of him, he couldn't find an Uber that was available at 10:30 at night. I don't know why. I was a little surprised. In some very popular areas, like if we ever get back to normal, if out on the side street in front of Fenway Park, the Uber and Lyft drivers were all parked up and down the streets because they know that people are going to come out of the ball game and they're going to want an Uber or Lyft, and they're going to be right there waiting for them. So, and the same thing with bars and restaurants sometimes too. Sometimes if it's a busy restaurant, Uber and Lyft drivers, rather than just kind of driving around circling the neighborhood waiting for a ride, will just kind of wait where they know that's going to be pretty popular, that someone's going to want to ride. So, but you find out it actually works. It works pretty well. It works pretty easily. The first time you do it, you'll be nervous. And after a while, you'll just click on your phone, tell it where you want to go. And generally minutes later, literally minutes later, they will show up and they'll give you a typical destination arrival time too. So, if it's 20 minutes or half an hour, they'll tell you that you'll be home by 3:30 in the afternoon. So you kind of have an idea how it's going to work.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
I was downtown with a friend and we were in the theater district and we got the Uber. We wanted to go over to North Station. And when he drove up and he had like a big SUV and he had a bunch of college kids in there as well. And I guess this was about 3 years ago. And I was like surprised, but it was late at night and I was like, okay, we'll get in there, we'll go. But I thought, well, at least they were college girls and it wasn't a bunch of drunk guys, but I didn't know, how do you know whether you're the only ride?
Well, you should be the only ride, unless you opt to go with the shared. There is a shared ride version.
I don't think there was at that point.
Yeah, but you should never be sharing a ride. Unless you want to. Yeah, that was weird. That isn't the way it's supposed to happen. Unless one of my coworkers is 28 years old. He doesn't care who he rides with, and he's just going for the cheapest way to get around. So he always clicks on the shared ride. But that is typically not the case. Typically, you should be in the car by yourself. So even if it's a Uber XL, the big SUV, you shouldn't be sharing a ride with anybody.
So currently, is there always the option of picking shared or non-shared?
Yes. Yeah.
And no, I don't think then, it was long enough ago, I don't think it was an option then.
Yeah. It may have not been. I mean, I'm relatively new to this in the last couple of years, so maybe when it first came out. But I remember 5 or 6 years ago, I was in Detroit, and I was using Uber pretty extensively, and I don't ever remember. I know I didn't share a ride with anybody, and in Detroit I wouldn't anyway. So. But so no, you shouldn't be unless you choose the option to share. And I forget exactly what it's called. It might be called Uber Share or something. But it should be, you should be riding by yourself. And again, that's the security part of it. And, and drunk college girls can be a problem too. So yes, Marion.
We're out here in the suburbs, and I can imagine that you get quick service in town, but are there more Lyft or Uber drivers around the Acton area that we're liable to get? And the second question is, do you tip them?
Most Uber and Lyft drivers, a lot of Uber and Lyft drivers will drive for both companies because how the system works if you're an Uber driver, you basically, or a Lyft driver, you basically turn on the app when you want to work. So if you said, hey, I got 4 hours free this afternoon, I think I'm going to see if I can make some money, you turn the app on. And in a lot of cases, what some of the drivers will do is they'll have two phones, and they'll have one phone set up for Uber and one phone set up for Lyft, and they'll kind of pick and choose their rides based on where people are going to go and where it's most advantageous to them at the same time. So a lot of times you'll find the same. Some people tell me Uber is better in certain areas. Other people tell me Lyft. I live in 25 miles outside of Boston on the South Shore. I can get a Lyft to go to. Now it's a little bit. I can get a Lyft to go to. We'll use Walmart as an example. Within 5 minutes. To get a Lyft to go to Logan might take just a little bit longer, maybe 10 or 15, but not bad at all. When I used to I used to be at the Boston Globe, and I used to take a cab to the airport from the Globe. Getting a cab from the airport sometimes could take an hour. But that's usually not the case with Uber and Lyft. I've found that I have a cottage in Dennisport down the Cape, and that's kind of, you wouldn't think there's a lot of Lyft and Uber drivers on the Cape. There is. It's not hard to get a ride. So depending where, I would not be surprised, that you have pretty decent coverage. I mean, the old days of taking a cab, you'd call, in my town, you'd call, let's see, what was it? 587-1000 to get the yellow cab in Brockton, Mass. And they'd say, oh yeah, we'll be there in 45 minutes. And then maybe in an hour they would show up. Uber and Lyft is pretty quick. And I'll let you know that one of the things that we hear from younger people, because they use Uber and Lyft so much, when they hear something's going to take a half an hour, they think it's forever, because they're so used to Uber and Lyft picking them up in minutes. So it's you usually do pretty well. So I'm sure there's places, I'll pick on East Longmeadow, or Montgomery, Massachusetts, which is out in the middle of the Berkshires somewhere. And maybe Lyft or Uber isn't that good out there, but it's probably at least as good as the local cab service would be. So, and like I said, I know some people now that have. You're not going to make a fortune driving for Lyft and Uber. I asked somebody to kind of sit down one day and figure out how much money they made driving, and they said after kind of all their expenses and everything, it averaged about $20 an hour. So they're like, if I can turn my phone on for 4 or 5 hours and make $100, it's worth doing it. So one guy I know is he drives a great big SUV, and so he's an Uber and Lyft XL Lux driver or whatever they call it, and he's signed up to do it to put his kid through Bridgewater College. So he said so far, he's been able to pay his kid's college tuition driving for Lyft and Uber on Friday and Saturday nights. That's all he drives for. So yeah, so depending on where you go, and do you tip? You can tip on the app. Uber just started to allow tipping on the app. So it'll come right up on the app. Do you want to tip your driver? Yes, and what percentage or what amount? Lyft has always had that, but some people I know choose no, but then they'll hand their driver a couple dollars, and they feel that the driver can just go get a cup of coffee afterwards or something rather. But you can do it either way. But you're not obligated to tip, but you should.
If you do, how much should you tip?
Well, it actually will say right on the app how much. It'll give you options. say it's a $10 ride, and they'll say, you know, $1, $2, $3. That depends what you want to do. You know, same thing if you've ever been to a restaurant where they suggest a tip at the bottom of the bill. You know, I hate that, by the way. But you know, I tend to be an okay tipper. I'm cheap, but I tend to be an okay tipper. But
John, this is Pat Morgan. I don't remember from the video what the screen is that showed the vehicles, the Ubers and the Lyfts waiting. Is that what comes up when you first hit the?
When you actually put in where you want to go, it will let you. It literally, Lyft is actually kind of cute. Lyft will actually show you where you are. So say you live on the corner of Spruce and Goose Street. It will show little toy cars circling around where you live. And then you go, okay. And then one of those little toy cars gets assigned and you can see it actually coming to you. So it's kind of cute the way it works. So, but yeah, so it'll let you know, the approximate time they're going to show up, because they know the Uber and Lyft computers know where you are, and they know where their drivers are, because as soon as the driver turns on their phone, they get installed in the system. So their GPS is kind of connecting with your GPS, so they know the closest proximity. And what happens is the drivers at the end of their shift, if you will, can choose that they don't want to take any more rides unless that ride is bringing them back someplace closer to home. So say they live in Acton and you were getting a ride home and they're like, I'm done for the night. Oh, one more just back to my house almost. Yeah, I think I'll pick that one up and do it. But for the most part, they're out trying to make a living, and they're trying to do it the best they can. And again, I think it's a really good system, and whoever came up with it, it works really well. It's just, I think the more the government gets involved with it, it may become, with taxes and all those kind of things. But as far as the use of it, I think the use of it is really good. So,
can you schedule something in advance?
You can. You can. Yeah, I found, I thought that was a really nice option. Say you had to be at the airport at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you're like, oh, I think I'll schedule it in advance. I've found that pretty much 4 o'clock in the morning, it's not any different than scheduling something at 9 o'clock in the morning. So, but if you knew, for instance, that everybody goes to the doctors at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, and you're like, oh, I want to make sure I'm going to be able to get there, and you want to schedule it ahead of time, you can do that. Uber does it easier than Lyft does it. There's a little clock and a time. But I've found, whenever I've checked, I've found it pretty easy to find a ride, whether it's in, Cape Cod or where I live here. And even when I was down in Florida, it was, I was in a little town in Florida. I'm like, I wonder if Lyft is even here. And it was. And even a few years ago, I was at a walk-in clinic at down in Dennis. And somebody came in and they said to somebody, "Oh, is there Uber here?" And the receptionist at the doctor's office said, "Of course there is. Where do you think you are? Uber's everywhere, And the guy's like, "Oh, I didn't know." And sure enough, the guy took an Uber home. So, yeah, it was fun. You'd be surprised how a lot of everybody from people that maybe got that are out of work to retirees have decided it's not a bad way to make a little extra income. And if you're somebody who kind of likes to chat with people, guy I know retired from the phone company, went to work for Uber and Lyft, and I said, "Bobby, why do you do it?" And he goes, "I like talking to people. I like finding out where they're going, what they're doing, what they've been." He says it's a whole lot better than sitting in the house. And he said, "I do it when I want." So it has done that. And some people will, there's also, you can call, Amazon and get your food delivered by Uber if you want. But I'd just rather have meat delivered than food. That's just Any other questions?
Can you talk about the airport, whether they can drop off at the, like at the front door, so to speak?
Yeah,
and where do you pick it up?
Yeah, there's a special location for Uber and Lyft drivers at Logan. There is not at TF Green, for instance. TF Green, they'll pick you up at, there's basically only one door at TF Green anyway. But at Logan, there's actually a ride share lot. So you need to take the shuttle to the ride share lot. So
Okay.
It's a little inconvenient. They will drop you off where they will drop you off at your gate door, or whatever it's called. But, if you're flying JetBlue, they'll drop you off at the JetBlue door. But to get picked up, and I say that, I was at Logan 3 or 4 months ago, and I think my plane got in at midnight. The Uber drivers they were picking people up at the regular, departure doors,
Mm-hmm.
and not, I think, because there wasn't as much traffic at that time of night, they were doing it. But about a year ago, to try to alleviate some of the traffic jams of people picking up and dropping off at the airport, they said Uber and Lyft has their own little dedicated spot.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anything else?
Thank you very much. Very informative.
Well, thank you.
This has been great.
All right.
Very good.
Chris, I hope that was okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's wonderful. Thank you, John.
And again, if you have questions about anything, my email again is jpaul@aaanortheast.com, or you can go to AAA.com/cardoctor, and you can find it. I will try to answer any question, whether it's about this, traffic safety, your car. Don't ask me too much about insurance. I don't know much about that. Don't ask me how to invest your money. I don't know how to do that. but short of that, I'll always try to find somebody who can try to help you at least anyway. So, I always try to answer every single email I get. So there we go.
Good for you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Take care. Bye bye now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Chris.
Bye.
Thank you.